Miami is effectively run by an oligopoly of useless, competing, familial political dynasties. There are the Regalatos, the Hardimans, the Suarezes, the Corrales, the Diaz de la Portillas, and so on. To make a cliched reference, Miami politics are like Game of Thrones if every player had shrapnel lodged in their brains. This brings us to the Barrero clan, a multi-decade political dynasty in Miami led by thick-necked doofus Bruno, a former Miami-Dade County Commissioner who is about to get flattened in a Republican congressional primary, and his half-brother Gus, who is running for county commission mere weeks after his sister-in-law Zoraida failed so hard she made national news by losing to a non-Cuban, progressive gringa in a Little Havana County Commission race. "I was in a hotel room, my cursor was moving, I didn't understand why," Barrero told New Times Today. "That's just the bottom line," he added. "I don't think I was set up. It was something that I know. My coworkers told me that something was going to happen to me. They said the department thought I was embarrassing them." Barrero's current bid for county commissions seems to be directly tied to an ongoing fight to build a gigantic mall. The Miami Herald yesterday outlined how the Canadian real estate development firm 555 is bankrolling Barrero's campaign, seemingly because his campaign opponent, the actually competent Daniela Levine Cava, voted against 555's plans to build the world's largest mall in Miami-Dade. The Herald notes that since Levine Cava's vote, people associated with 555 have donated $7,500 to Barrero directly, more than 60% of his total cash haul right now, and have also dumped a staggering $100,000 into a Barrero-aligned political action committee, which is a seriously huge chunk of money for a county race. In terms of money, Barrero's campaign could be accurately called undemocratic and entirely motivated by spiteful billionaires. Such is the state of American democracy in 2018, Barrero told New Times he reached out to the 555 group because he supports the mall and believes it will create jobs. Levine Cava said in the past that she voted against the mall because most of the jobs would constitute part-time, low-wage work. Asked if he thought the donations from 555 were clearly transactional, Barrero swore that campaign money had no influence over his vote. He also pointed out that Levine Cava is still out fundraising him because he has jumped back into county politics. Let's revisit how exactly Barrero lost his former job at DJJ in 2009, by getting caught viewing at least 382 pornographic images on a government-issued laptop and then claiming he'd been framed. The story pops up every time he has mounted a new campaign for political office, which it should, because it's both indicative of his judgment as a public official and also really, really funny. Barrero was a Florida state representative from 1998 to 2006. As a legislator, he had something of a libertarian Republican bent. He was pro-NRA and anti-abortion and had a horrid environmental record, but his former New Times staff writer Jim DeFeed noted in 2001, in a column quite rightfully calling Barrero enigmatic, he was also progressive on LGBTQ issues and believed in lowering incarceration rates in the state prison system. He even received an award in 2005 for his work on the case of Martin Lee Anderson, a black child killed in a Florida prison system boot camp. At the same time, Barrero was also considered a friend to the Church of Scientology and at one point sponsored an anti-mental health care bill pushed by the church. Asked today why he supported the bill, he said he believes that children are over-medicated and that too many kids are being diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. Though the bill was largely assailed by medical professionals at the time, he said he stands by it. From the Florida legislature, he hopped over to working at a government contractor called Associated Marine Industries before moving to the state's DJJ as chief of residential programs in March 2008. But he didn't last long. According to a 13-page complaint the Herald posted online in 2009, Barrero's bosses at the DJJ caught him accessing several hundred sexually explicit images from the internet while logged into his Dell Latitude 100L laptop under his government username, BarreroGX. Barrero had signed a document promising he wouldn't use the computer for anything personal before the government handed it over to him. A forensic search of his hard drive revealed 382 pornographic images, 280 in his temporary downloads folder and 102 that had been deleted but recovered by investigators. They said Barrero had logged into the website adultfriendfinder.com under the handle CubanCigar107. Barrero was born in Cuba and represented the Florida House's 107th district, and spent a good bit of time looking up users' sexually explicit profile images. Investigators said he watched a pornographic video on Adult Friend Finder at 3:58 one November morning. They also scanned his office desktop computer but did not find any porn there. Investigators confronted Barrero and, at first, showed him innocuous images he'd accessed on the government laptop during the day, including random Facebook photos. Barrero said he recognized the images and agreed he'd viewed them. One of the images, viewed around 8:45 one November 2008 evening, was a family member. But then Barrero's bosses showed him the porn they said he'd accessed and said the images were downloaded during the same session in which Barrero already admitted to using his laptop to look at the random Facebook pics. "I don't know how the hell that got on my computer," Barrero blurted out. When investigators said the images were downloaded at basically the same time as the harmless photos he already admitted to viewing, Barrero responded by saying that was really interesting. Barrero has long maintained someone set him up, and claimed he often let other people use his laptop. But investigators noted that on the aforementioned November day in question, he admitted he was traveling in Marianna, Florida, and that it sure seemed improbable that someone else was using his computer in the wee hours of that day while he was out of town. Throughout the ordeal, Barrero maintained that he did nothing wrong and that he was possibly being persecuted because of his activism for children being abused in the DJJ system. Barrero still says the ordeal was a setup because he tipped the Herald off about the unmarked child graves. "People ask me from time to time, knowing what would have happened, would I still have done it?" Barrero said. "I tell them I would have still called the Miami Herald. These are hundreds of kids out there, still buried." He also added that, in the years since getting fired, he's even more certain he was framed for viewing porn. "I've learned a lot more about computers since then," he said.